Hey guys, Coach Highway from GameLeap here, and welcome to today's video where we are going to rank all of the 35 Overwatch 2 Ultimates in Season 1. Before we get into it, I just wanted to say that GameLeap's Overwatch 2 website is here and it is popping. We have all kinds of great content, over 100 videos at this point, and it's only been around for a couple of weeks now. If you want to see some really high IQ content from pro coaches, you should come check it out by following this link here. Without further ado, let's get back into our topic for today. Okay, if you've seen my other tier list, you know I usually break these up by role. So today we're going to do DPS, and then tank, and then support. First up on our DPS list, we have Bastion in the C tier. Bastion's ult is honestly really bad. At best, you can use it to zone off some enemies or get picks on an unsuspecting target, but realistically, you're not going to get a consistent amount of value from it. It's also pretty one-dimensional in nature. You can be canceled out of it by a stun, and it leaves you in a very vulnerable position. This ult needs some love for sure. Moving on into the B tier, our first DPS is going to be Torb. Torb's ult has a lot of potential, but overall mobility is the name of the game during Season 1, and that kind of makes it difficult to secure picks using Torb's ult, unless you're in a few specific situations. Next in our DPS B tier is going to be Hanzo, and he falls into kind of the same trap as Torb. His ultimate has a lot of potential, especially when comboed with other ults like Flex or Grav, but you run into a problem of most heroes being able to easily get out of the way by using their mobility. Against slower teams, it can be used to split off and kill out of position enemies, but it's not a very great ultimate due to its very easy to avoid nature. Our next B tier ultimate is going to be Cassidy's High Noon. High Noon's damage resistance buff honestly makes it a lot better. If it weren't for it, I'd easily put this in the C tier, but with a full HP Cassidy receiving even a little bit of healing, High Noon can actually split and force enemies to hide now, which lets your team potentially follow up for easy kills. A speed boost also gives Cassidy a much needed bit of mobility during this ultimate, which can allow him to chase frags around corners. It's still just a bit underwhelming, and a shield or matrix can stop it entirely, however, which makes it a B tier ult. Moving on into our A tier, we have Echo, and Echo's ultimate is just not what it used to be. With a team that actually focuses on killing the copies, she dies pretty quickly now due to the capped HP limit and the reduced tank presence. Of course, if your team doesn't make a point of shooting at her, then this ultimate is an S tier, since it allows you to dupe another character's ult and abilities, meaning you could have a second Zarya running around and charge and grab, which is a nightmare, but because it's a bit hit or miss and it takes a while to charge, I leave it here at the A tier. Solid, but not perfect. Next up is Pharah at the A tier, and I feel as though I'm going to get some disagreement on this one, but hear me out. Pharah's ultimate charges so fast. When I play Pharah, I have it legitimately at the beginning of every fight, since she can spam long range angles and it just charges very quickly. Dropping down on someone and firing a rocket just before you ult does so much burst damage that most people can't even react on time, and you can generate a ton of picks this way. Of course, this ultimate isn't going to be a huge 4 to 5 man ult every time, and if the other team is super aware, then they'll shut you down, which is why I leave it here at the A tier, but don't underrate it. Next, we have Soldier 76 in the A tier, and his ultimate is really strong with the reduced shields and increased mobility of Overwatch 2. Since it is an auto aim, it's nice to be able to easily track those fast moving targets flying around and quickly kill them, especially when paired with nano or damage boost. It's also been buffed to allow the ult to deal headshot damage, so if you're shooting at a tank, you can get that extra damage that you need. His ult is simple and effective, but not perfect as it can be shut down with Matrix, and he's still just as weak as he was before using it. A tier. If you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to like and subscribe for more free Overwatch 2 educational content to help you up your game. Next on the A tier is Symmetra, and Sim's wall poses as one of the last remaining effective shields in the game. Using it to slice a choke down the middle and then running along one side of it can give your team a huge advantage when pushing and put the enemy team at a bad disadvantage. Sim's wall can come in extremely clutch against certain ultimates or when it is needed to shut off a high ground or a massive flank angle that your team cannot deal with. It really is a fantastic ultimate, but can still be countered by some of the meta heroes and the way they play, especially with dive becoming meta, so we have it at the A tier. Next on the A tier is Reaper, and Reaper's ult is surprisingly effective. It was very tempting to put him on the S tier, but the lack of mobility to chase targets just leaves it a cut below the rest. It does deal a lot of great damage to squishies and can be difficult to react to if the Reaper positions on the flank well for a surprise. It also has a more guaranteed pick if, like the Pharah ult, the Reaper uses a shotgun blast just before ulting to burst someone's health down and give them less chance to react. Overall, a decent high power ultimate with one clear weakness and lack of mobility, which makes it A tier for me. Next on the A tier is Tracer, and Pulse Bomb is historically one of the most hit or miss ultimates. A Tracer with a massive pulse rate can absolutely make this an S tier pick, but it's just really difficult to land, and it puts you in danger when you go for it due to how close range it is. It can be eaten by bubbles or defense matrix or stopped with the various invulnerabilities in the game, which makes it just a cut below where it could be. If there wasn't so many things to counter it, it'd be S tier. However, we're leaving it here at the A tier. Next up on our A tier is Junkrat, and Junk's Tire is one of the most fight-changing ultimates in the game. You can use it to force an entire enemy team to slow down and be careful with it due to its high potential for massive picks. Using a wall, you can make the Tire quieter and harder to counter. It is weak though, so a hit scan paying close attention has the potential to shut it down, especially if their team team backs off. It stays on the A tier due to its hit or miss for me. Next in the A tier is Mei, and Blizzard is still a fantastic ult, especially since Mei's wall can really trap enemies inside of it and secure easy picks. Even with defensive ultimates, since the enemies are standing perfectly still, you can sometimes kill them through their saving ults like Transcendence with headshots from your team. It has a lot of power, but it can be matrixed or bubbled out of, and it requires close range, which makes it difficult to get maximum value out of in the meta. Still, its power leaves it at the A tier. Next in our A tier for DPS we have Ashe, and Bob is a juicy ultimate, and I was tempted to put him on the S tier as well. I can't remember a time when I didn't get value with Bob in Overwatch 2. He just does so much damage and applies so much pressure that if you follow up on his targets, he is certain to secure you 2 or 3 picks in those crucial fights. He also buys you a lot of time by contesting objectives. Our final A tier DPS is going to be Widowmaker. Widowmaker's ultimate has no killing or carry potential on its own, which is the sole reason it's in the A tier. It is a fantastic information ultimate. It can lead to a ton of kills or set your team up for value, and it requires no danger or skill shot of any kind for the Widowmaker to use it. It is a great setup ultimate, but due to its lack of fight carrying, it sits here at the A tier. Moving into the S tier, we have Sombra, and Sombra's ultimate is utterly fantastic. It stops everyone's abilities, it gives Sombra a damage boost against all of them, it takes 40% of their HP away, it charges very quickly, it has little reaction time for the enemy, and it's just overall a simple to use fight winner. There's no real reason to not have this ult at the S tier. Our next DPS in the S tier is going to be Sojourn, and Railgun requires a lot of skill to use, but is honestly just so strong when you're good with it. It creates so much pick potential and allows Sojourn to even burst down tanks with its sheer damage output on headshots. It's a great ultimate with simple to understand value potential, and the only limitation is your skill level, S tier. Our final DPS in this tier list is going to be Genji, which should honestly surprise nobody. Dragonblade has received a massive buff with the reduction of CC in Overwatch 2. His mobility and snowbally nature makes him lethal with Dragonblade, being able to dash around and secure picks on all the squishies that cannot stop him. Combined with a nano boost to make a slash and dash a one-shot combination, this ultimate is fantastic. Moving on into tank, we start off in the Doomfist, D tier. Doom's ultimate is, in my genuine opinion, the worst ultimate in the game. The damage is pitiful, it's easy to avoid, it clearly communicates where he is to the enemy team, and it just really doesn't spur many pushes. You land and then you're still just the same old Doomfist without much ability to get anything done. It's extremely weak, and I have seen maybe one Doom ult get value in the weeks of playing Overwatch 2. D tier, sadly. I didn't place any tanks in the C tier, so we're moving up to the B tier where we have Roadhog. Hog's ultimate is better than it was in Overwatch 1 due to its inability to be cancelled easily and its general quality of life change with being able to fire as you please rather than non-stop. It doesn't do much in the way of pick potential unless you catch someone in a really perfect moment or you combine with a Kiriko ult or Nano, but it can get a few good picks here and there occasionally or be used to stop a Nano Blade. It's not consistent at all, so it just kind of sits here in the B tier. Next up is Wrecking Ball, and Ball's ult honestly feels more like a C tier to me at times, but I've seen enough good ball players land some juicy ultimates that I just have to leave it in the B tier. It has fantastic area denial and it can stop a team from running away as your team pushes into them. This has the potential to put them in a really tough spot and make it more likely for them to split apart and get picked. However, it needs some team pressure to really shine, so I leave it here at the B tier. Next on the B tier we have Drunkard Queen. Her ultimate is either fantastic or bad and not really any in between. Kiriko has created a serious problem for this ultimate with her cleanse, which stops it from being any higher for me. However, a massive AoE anti-heal and a decent chunk of damage with a suddenly in-your-face Drunkard Queen is a pretty big problem for a lot of teams. It's possible to spur a very easy offense from our own team, but its lack of consistency makes it a B tier for me. Our final B tier tank ultimate is going to be Earthshatter, and there is only one reason this isn't an A tier, and that's Kiriko. Kiriko's Suzu can easily stop an Earthshatter even retroactively since it picks teammates up off the floor after they've been stunned. I honestly hate this interaction, but I digress. Shields or mobility can also stop Earthshatter from being effective, and overall I just think this ultimate is harder to land regularly than it's worth, making it B tier for me. Moving into our A tier we have Orisa. I originally didn't like Orisa's ultimate, but as I'm learning how many things can combo with it and make it really effective, I'm starting to realize its true potential. Anything that does at least 60 to 80 damage can make Orisa's ultimate suddenly extremely potent, and since the enemies are sucked directly onto Orisa, it's easy to combine and land shots on things. Rockets, anti-grenades, EMP, Blossom, really anything to set up a quick set of kills, and suddenly Orisa's ult is very solid. My advice if you're struggling to find value is get a duo and start communicating, and then you'll see just how much this ultimate can do to enemy backlines. Our next A tier ult for tanks is going to be Primal Rage. Primal allows for Monkey to regain all of his health and continuous dives, which is really its primary use. It allows for him to be much more aggressive, and a Monkey good at juggling can get tons of picks and value from this ult. Overall, A tier ultimate. Next we have D.Va, and her self-destruct can get massive picks at lower ranks when timed well. At higher ranks, even when teams have tons of mobility, she can use it similar to Winston's Primal, making it a super versatile ultimate that allows for multiple scenarios to be covered. It just doesn't have as much fight carry potential in my opinion as the S tier ultimates, so it's going to stay here at the A tier. Moving on into the S tier, we have our first tank, Zarya. Graviton Surge is a dynamic, powerful, and simple ult. Target enemy squishies to force them to stand still, endure damage, and kill them quickly, or use it against a nanoed enemy who is trying to push to give your team a massive defensive edge and potentially kill that target. Use it against a Primaling Monkey or a Blading Genji to get a pick and save your team from deadly fight-winning ultimates. It's just really a strong ult all around, and it doesn't require much from the Zarya to land consistent value and carry fights with it. Our final tank is going to be Sigma, and he is in the same tier as Graviton Surge. Sig's ult is everything Grav is, just slightly different. It more or less requires the same intuition, grabbing squishies and focusing them while they are stuck and getting ready to lose half of their HP. It's also just as powerful against the aforementioned nano targets or Blading Genjis or Primaling Monkeys, making it very versatile. His ultimate is just a different type of grab with some damage sprinkled in it, which leaves it at the S tier. Moving on to our final role, we have support, and supports will be starting off in the C tier with Brigitte. Rally has honestly lost a lot of its potency with the split-natured mobility-oriented team play that has become meta. There's not much incentive for your team to be stacking on you and thus giving up lots of angles and taking lots of damage, and it doesn't really make you alone powerful enough to suddenly carry a fight, which lands it square at the C tier. It's decent, especially towards the middle of a fight, but it's really just not a fantastic solo carry ultimate. Next on the C tier, we have Mercy's Valk. Valk is a good ultimate for the Mercy, letting her heal and damage boost an area of teammates and giving her much more mobility for getting res or just avoiding damage altogether, but it still lacks some serious power that the other supports have. A team isn't going to really win off of a Valk alone unless a big res happens during it, so because of this I leave it at the C tier. Next we move up into the B tier, and I have a bit of a controversial choice for the first support, Baptiste. I think a lot of people would disagree with me on this since his ultimate is actually quite powerful. The only reason I have it at the B tier is because dive is so meta now that you don't get as much of a chance to use it as you would against a slow comp. It's easier to suppress with mobility, so it sticks at the B tier for me. Next on our B tier for support is going to be Moira, and Moira's ult absolutely decimates at lower rank, but I'm not using just that as a gauge for power. As you get to Diamond Plus, you start to see a drop off in coal value, and it becomes good for saving fights that are slowly being lost or for spurring a quick offense, but it's not a solo carry ultimate by any means. B tier. The remaining supports all have incredible ultimates, so we're going up past the A tier and into the S tier, and our first S tier support is Ana. Nano Boost is a beastly ult. It lets you make your carry player carry even harder, or combines with things like Dragon Blade to give Genji a one-shot, or allows your tank to be significantly more aggressive. You get the idea. Its burst healing allows for you to quickly turn a fight on a dime and send the enemies scrambling. It's a really solid ult, easy to get value with, which leaves it at the S tier. Next on our support list is Lucio, and Soundbarrier is one of the only ultimates that can stop pretty much any ultimate in the game from instantly winning a team fight. It's super solid. It gives your team a ton of health to not only save them, but also to be able to push with and spur an instant offense with. Fantastic, dynamic ultimate, S tier. Next on our support list in the S tier is Kiriko, and her ultimate is one of the best in the game right now. It's like Nano Boost if it applied to your entire team. There's so much good about Kiriko ult, and it's insanely versatile, helpful on pretty much any map, and has a fairly quick charge rate, leaving it at the S tier. Our final hero is Zenyatta, and his ultimate is a staple defensive ult much like Sound Barrier. You can use it to keep a stack of teammates up through insane amounts of damage, and it makes the Zenyatta unkillable, allowing him to move around the battlefield as needed. I think Zen's ult is slightly weaker than Sound Barrier due to the fact that you can one-shot people inside of it still, but it's an S tier ult all the same. That's going to be all for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget once more to check out our website. Until next time, take care and peace.